All right, so good afternoon, everybody here. Good afternoon to you guys at the Hannan Center in brilliant Detroit. I'm Shelby. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and today we will be making a green risotto. So it's a lot of greens in this one. You guys have the recipe in front of you. You guys have the recipe at home. The first thing we use in this is asparagus, so that's why it's considered a green risotto. There's also some basil in here, and then we'll talk about other things that we can add to the risotto as well. Have you guys ever had risotto before? Get some yeses. Okay. So it really is just, I think of it as kind of like a smooth Italian rice soup almost. So it'll be a little al dente, which means it'll have a little crunch to it. But for the most part, that is where it originates from. So let's take a look at the recipe. We'll walk through it. So the very first thing we have on here is prepping the asparagus. Movie magic, I did some of the stuff already, and then I'll show you guys what I did here. So first, I did blanch some of the asparagus because that is how we make the sauce. You guys know what asparagus looks like. You have to prep them. So how you prep them is typically you kind of figure out where it bends, right? So, that's how you could tell that where you cut it, and it's about 1 inch off of the end. I also cut off the tops because we're going to add the tops to this as well, and then I just was left with the middle part. Okay, so I did that for an entire stock of asparagus, and then I blanched it in some boiling water for about 5 minutes or so, and blanching is just basically dipping it in and then taking it out. Then I put that in a blender. I blended that up with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, some of the fluid from the blanching that I did, and also basil. Okay, so that is the very first couple parts here. It's just prepping the asparagus and then making the puree. Okay, so the puree that I made looks like this. Okay, it's very green. And so that is what's going to go in the risotto. So what I'm mixing here is a 1/2 cup of the green mix with some warm, hot vegetable broth. So do you guys make your own broths? Do you purchase them? Tell me more about canned goods and broths and things like that. What do you guys normally do?
I'll buy it like that.
Buy it like that? Okay.
Cute.
Okay.
I make my own with a base. You can purchase the vegetable base or ham base or roasted chicken base.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very delicious. You don't have to add any additional seasoning to it.
Yeah. And I will say what you're talking about, they do the better than bouillon, I'm assuming is what you're talking about. Yeah, and they do have a vegetable version of that. They do have like a mushroom version of that. I will say bouillon is very, very high in sodium, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you're using, look at the portion of it. And if you are confident, which I would say, I'm confident that you guys are pretty good cooks already, to use half of what they say. So whatever the portion is, to cut the salt down, just because you're adding it to something, it's already going to be flavored. And so you're not going to miss the sodium that you're cutting out, okay? So I'm glad that you brought that up though, because a lot of people don't think about better than bouillon, so that's good. So the next part of the recipe is that I'm starting the risotto. So I started it a bit ahead of schedule, and then I'm going to make it again. But I wanted to kind of start it off so you guys can kind of taste it and see the final product, and then we'll kind of walk through it as I do it. So I added the leeks. I didn't talk about that. So have you guys ever had leeks before? Yeah, right? Make sure you clean them really well. If you have like one of those brushes, typically I use a brush that you would clean with to scrub things like leeks and things like that. It comes off way easier than using like a kitchen one. So I use that to scrub it. And then leeks typically, especially the white part, has more of like a onion type of flavor. So that's what I use in this. That's part of the vegetable part of this too. Okay, so I use that. And then I also, like I said, I cleaned it and I put it in here. And so I kind of just let it let it go. I added garlic, so any type of chopped garlic. If you do like any type of pureed garlic, or if you buy it in the tube, that's okay too. I always say use what you have. And then if you do chopped garlic, of course it's going to be more pungent. I'd say kind of just use what you have. I added this in here for a little bit. This says, I think, a couple minutes, or it says like till fragrant, which means a couple seconds or so. You don't want to burn the garlic. You also don't want it to cook so much that you don't smell it, right? So if it's very, very, I would just say pungent, then you want to, that's kind of like your go ahead to continue cooking after that. So I added 1 cup of the arborio rice to it, and then I kind of set it, I moved it around the skillet here. I'll turn this down a little bit. I moved it around the skillet here, and then I kind of pressed it down because I want to toast the rice to kind of give it a nutty type of flavor. And then I started to add this hot vegetable broth. You can use chicken broth. I actually bought some of that, so we can talk about that. And then I added it to it. It has to be hot. Why would I add hot to hot instead of like cold to this hot thing? Why does it matter? Temperature, right? You don't want it, right? And then it'll help to continue to cook, right? So you don't want to necessarily add anything cold to hot. You want to make sure that it's pretty much like the same temperature, okay? So I did that, and then it's kind of like a babysitting thing now. So you kind of just babysit it. So as it goes, you can see the rice kind of absorb the liquid, and once it starts to get a little sticky, you add more. And so I added about 3.5 cups of the vegetable broth, and then I added about 1/2 cup of the puree, okay? So I'm gonna add a little bit more of the puree just to give it more of the flavor, but it's very, very simple recipe. It's very simple in terms of flavors too. So I have not added any salt to this. I'm going to add some fresh grated lemon to this, and then I'm gonna add some pepper, and then that's it. And then I do have some chicken for you guys to add on top, so we'll do that. And let you guys taste it, and then we'll go from there, okay? Any questions about the risotto? Yeah.
Exactly. Why do they call it risotto when it's it's the name of the rice? Is it because you make the recipe and then you call it that? It's the rice is called, how you pronounce it?
Arborio.
Rice.
I'm probably even saying it wrong because I'm not Italian. But I will say that it's called risotto just because of the technique. A lot of things in, I would say, Italian cooking, it's very simple. You will see, you go to Italy, a lot of the flavors are very simple. You would say, oh, it's just olive oil and garlic. Oh, it's just basil and blah, blah, blah. And it is really simple. It's just more of the technique and how it's prepared. So risotto is kind of like a slow cook, kind of like a slow...
Grits. You gotta stand there.
There you go. It's like grits, right? Kind of like a slow cook. All right. So this is pretty much done. I typically like risotto to be a little bit al dente. If it's really soft, then it kind of just tastes like really soft, like long grain rice. You want to be able to tell the difference. Arborio rice is, it's got more fiber in it, which is nice. Okay, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's white rice, don't eat it, it's okay. Portion of this, I believe, is like 1/2 cup, and I'm adding protein on top of that. So you guys will taste both of those together.
Risotto rice, rice, it takes on any kind of flavor that you use.
Yes.
It takes on any kind of flavor.
Yes. So I'm going to add the lemon to this. So I just did half of it. I'm going to do the other half a little later. But this adds kind of like a really bright, I would say, and fresh flavor to it. And yes, there's tons of different types of risottos, right? Most people think of risotto and like, oh, I've had like lobster risotto and all of these others, you can do pretty much anything. Go ahead.
Now your stock or your broth, now is that salted or unsalted?
Very good question. So I did, and this is a dietitian tip, I do half and half. So these are both organic, but I use one that is fat-free. Most of the time it will be fat-free unless it has like a meat base. It should be fat-free, vegetable broth. And then the other one I did was a low sodium one. And so I mixed them together. Okay, and so that helps. So it's not that you guys will taste something that is completely unsalted, because I think that's unfair to do. It's just I'm not adding anything to it because it's already got salt in it. Okay. All right, so this is good, and you guys are gonna try it now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The recipe says to thinly slice leeks into half moons. How do you slice a leek into a half moon?
Yeah, so here is the leek, right? And so I did bring some to show you guys. When you cut this, these are not that big, but you wash it, right? And then you cut this end and cut this end, and then you just slice it in small, I would say like a quarter of a sliver of slices. I did not do half moons on this though. I did diced because visually it looks better. That's it. It's gonna taste the same, but it's just about like visually appealing and things like that. You want the rice and the leeks and even the asparagus to have similar shapes.
And do you use the green part of the leek as well?
We do. So this is finishing up. So what I'm going to do now is add some of the tops to this, and then that'll be pretty much it. I'm going to add some pepper and then serve it up to you guys.
I added white wine because I got the result.
I did.
It says white wine, so I had to add a cup of white wine.
Mm-hmm.
A white wine to my risotto.
Yes, so I did add white wine to this. Good job for following the recipe. That I did not. I just started talking, but I did add the tops of the asparagus just now, and I did add earlier the white wine. The white wine is cooked off. Don't worry, you will not taste the alcohol in it if you guys are worried about that. So these are already washed, and so I'm just adding the tops. The tops will be slightly cooked because I'm adding that to a very hot pot. So you guys shouldn't worry about that either of it not being cooked. Most of the time if you see like an asparagus in a salad, it's typically the top, and they just slice that really, really thin. So you can have asparagus raw as well.
How does your risotto, your rice come? Mine is vacuum packed.
Yeah, so either one. I use just, I have like a large container full because I knew I would be making it more than once. So vacuum packed, or if you want to buy it by itself, you can do that as well. If you go to like any store that you can kind of serve yourself, you can do that as well and kind of weigh it out that way. Okay. You guys have such good questions. So I'm just mixing this together. It's pretty much done. I'm gonna take out the chicken and then kind of start to serve you guys, and then I'm gonna make it once more. So you guys will actually see me make it, and then we're gonna go and talk about the nutrition behind it, and then also talk about how to add more vegetables to our foods throughout the day too, okay? You guys can continue to ask questions, of course.
Are you using cube chicken?
Yes.
And you can use chicken breast because it's gonna cook streaming.
Yeah. How many of you guys have like air fryers? Yeah. Okay. I know that's all the craze right now. That is a really quick way to cook like chicken breast, especially like thinly sliced, because we are really paying attention to our time today. This is cooked prior, but I tried to pick the one that I would myself eat as well. So this one, for the most part, had pretty, the fat was pretty low. We're doing really small portions of it, so I'm pretty confident that you guys will like it.
Friendly reminder, if you didn't already sign in the sign-in sheet, should be going around right now. Does anybody else eat asparagus raw or have ever eaten it raw? I'm glad that you mentioned that because a lot of people think you have to cook it to eat it. Okay.
I like it too.
Yeah, it's good.
Raw.
Like those veggie wraps that we made a couple weeks ago, you can put little pieces in there. You do not have to cook it, but it is really important, like we taught, how you have to snap it to make sure you don't get all the fibery, woody parts.
Yeah, and so that was a little bit of a blooper for you guys, but normally you kind of just like bend it, and then once you can figure out where it is, and you cut it, or about an inch from the end is the other kind of way to go about that.
Can you substitute any vegetable?
Yes, so when it comes to this, obviously we're doing the asparagus, but you can add or wilt in, because this would be at the very end, spinach.
Okay.
You can blend up different things. So the blend that I did was basil and asparagus. You can blend up broccoli. You can blend up pretty much anything, right? And add it in there.
It's wonderful.
All right, make sure you put the chicken on top.
I have a question. Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
My question is, you said that the rice makes it a little bit crunchy. Is that what you said? Is the rice totally done in there, or does it?
So the rice is what I would call al dente, which means that it's got a little bit of a bite to it. So it's not super soft. So I compared it to like a long grain white rice, which would be really soft, or like a sushi rice, right? Which would be really soft. So this one's tougher than that. Like you would never put this in a sushi. But it matches what you guys are going to eat. So because the asparagus has got a little bite to it, it should match that.
Is that just like cutting the cooking time down, maybe a couple of minutes off would be al dente?
Al dente is around like 6 to 8 minutes on regular rice. Risotto takes like 25 minutes, and then from there it kind of just changes. So some people would cook it a little longer. Some people would cook their risotto a little shorter. It just depends. Some of it is your own personal preference too, for sure. I'm making it again, so you guys, if you don't get it, which you guys should, there's enough of you guys, but I'm gonna make it again, okay? Some of you guys have it. What do you guys think?
I haven't had it like this, but it's usually a little bit more saucy.
More salt?
No, more saucy.
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 Got it. Okay.
There's a comment on the live stream. Diana says risotto looks great.
Oh, thank you. We're gonna make it again. So I'm gonna walk through it once more, and then we'll talk about it at length. So this is pretty. Want it to be a little bit on the warmer side. I'm just eyeballing the oil. So warming that. Here are the leeks, okay? So this is, I can hear it, so that's a good sign. So these are the leeks that I chopped up prior, okay?
What about a red onion?
Red onion may change the flavor a bit, because that's a bit on the sweeter side. But I would say try it. I would say even you can like blend up a red onion with the blend that I made. So you can blend up like a red onion, asparagus, and basil together. I'd say that it'd be really good, actually.
And maybe a carrot for some color.
Yeah, I mean, if you added carrot, it would change the color of it, for sure. It wouldn't be green anymore. But it'll definitely add some of the flavor, for sure. And some of the nutrient density that we are always going for, which means making our food is as nutritious as possible. Okay. All right. So I added the leeks. I added the garlic, so you guys should start to smell that. Sorry for you guys that are not here and think about it. So I'm gonna let this go for a little bit, and then I'm gonna add the arborio rice to this. So, while that's going, I'm going back to the recipe here. Part of this, because someone asked me, there we go, is the zesting, so to speak, of a lemon. Okay, so I only did half in that one, but I bought this some time ago. I bought it pretty much at any of your grocery stores or anything like that, but it has different things that you can add to it, so it's different. So like one's like a slicer, one's like a peeler, and this one just zests it for you. I think it's a lot easier and also safer, because if you're doing this and your fingers are down, it can get real dangerous real quick. So, and what I'm doing is just kind of digging in a bit, and it kind of just zests it for you, and it cuts it into like really small pieces. Make sure you hit the bowl though when you do it, and that's what I just did. So I'm just putting that in here like this for the other half. Does anybody know why we would even put like a zest of a lemon in something like this?
Well, you make it a stronger flavor.
Yeah, just adding more flavor to it. I'm not adding a ton of extra stuff to it, so I'm not adding a whole lot of like salt and other things. So with that, you're just trying to add more flavor and trying to add as much flavor as possible. So now we're going to add the arborio rice here.
May I interject something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So another fun thing to keep in mind when cooking with lemons is there's two ways of using it. Most people think juicing it is the only way to add it to your cuisine. But when you zest it, you can add the lemon flavor without the acidity or without the sourness. So you can get that lemon zesty flavor without actually making the dish acidic or overly sour. So, depending on what you want to do, there's two ways to use your lemons and it can impact it differently. Something I learned.
I can taste the lemon zest.
But it's not really like sour as you might think. You add like pure citric juice.
Now, could you substitute broccoli for the asparagus in this dish?
Yes, it'll just change the texture, right? So broccoli takes way less time to cook, so you would just pay attention to that. I would probably blanch the broccoli, not 5 minutes, maybe like 3. And I would do the same thing. You can blend it up and then add some broccoli. I'll probably slice the broccoli as well, probably longer. So you can kind of get, I would say that in terms of it fitting the entire dish, again, a part of cooking sometimes is just visually making it look really good. So cutting it a certain way, making sure it fits, is also part of, I think, the experience, right? So,
Say you with your eyes.
yeah, nobody, right? Or if you're cooking at home, someone walks in, you want them to be like, oh, it smells good up in here, right? If it doesn't, and no one says anything, when they walk in your house and you're cooking.
It tastes good. I don't know what asparagus tastes like, so.
Well, I'm glad you like
I
it.
don't know if I don't taste asparagus in it or not, but it tastes really good.
It's in there, yeah. I added a little extra, so it's in there. But I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, I don't know what asparagus tastes like.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to cook asparagus, right? So this way I'm just adding it to a rice, but you could add asparagus or cook it on top of the stove. You can bake it. That's a good sign. Everything's hot. So I'm just adding the broth to this. So asparagus. So you can cook it on top of the stove. You can bake it. I've seen people do asparagus and wrap like prosciutto around it and put it out. I would say, prosciutto is salty, so pay attention to that. So don't salt it or anything like that because you're adding something salty to it already. But I would say it's pretty good, especially for just putting it out for people to come over and things like that. So this one I added 1 cup already. I'm gonna add 2.5 more cups, and then I'm gonna add pretty much most of this. You would see that the rice is kind of absorbing, so it's kind of sticking together a bit.
Is this similar to a pilaf, a rice pilaf?
Yeah, because rice pilaf you bake, right? Do you cook it halfway and then you bake the rest or something like that? So yeah, for sure. Now, when we look at, So looking at asparagus, since we're talking about it, it's pretty low calories. So for just 1 serving, which is basically what you guys got here, it's 20 calories just for asparagus. So that's why you see a lot of asparagus on the side of things. You see asparagus on the side of like chicken, steak, things like that, right? It's pretty low in calories. Also, it's pretty, I would say for vegetables, kind of high in protein. It's 2 grams of protein for each kind of bundle that you have, so a serving. Also, it's pretty high in vitamin A, vitamin K, so all of our immune boosting vitamins that we need, as well as it's rich in potassium. If you think about other things that are rich in potassium, so like tomatoes and bananas, things like that, right? So some people just think of like 1 or 2 things that may have these things in there, but you can also diversify and have a lot more. Especially as a dietitian, what bothers me sometimes is that it would say, oh, if you're sick, just drink some orange juice, right? There's actually more vitamin C in pineapple juice. Okay, so yeah. If you don't remember anything today, remember that. Okay, so this is absorbing most of it, so we'll add 1 more.
Is it possible that you can cook your rice in advance, or you don't recommend that?
Not for risotto, because this one, the purpose of the risotto is just like kind of sitting here and stirring. If you cook it ahead of time, it's going to overcook the rice, or it just won't be, it won't really taste very good. It would be like really gummy or soft or something like that. So how was the texture? Because I tried to do the al dente. It was good?
Delicious.
Okay, good. Asparagus is also rich in antioxidants, so for helping to reduce inflammation in the body, you want to make sure that you consume a good amount of antioxidants, and this way we can do that by adding as many of the anti-inflammatory veggies as possible, right, to our food. I get a lot of questions in terms of how am I supposed to increase my fiber, okay? It's also rich in fiber. Fiber we need, of course, for digestion. It's also helpful for weight management, also curbing all types of craving. So I always just say, well, that's kind of your body telling you something. Most of the time it's that we're not getting enough fiber. It's very common for Americans to not get fiber. This is not new. So trying to incorporate it in any way possible. So this way we're doing that with the asparagus and with the leeks and things like that. Okay.
When you talked about the cholesterol, you said 9.8.
Yeah, it's pretty low. I would say cholesterol is going to be coming from something that is from an animal, because we only get cholesterol from animal products. So if it's vegan, there's no cholesterol in it, and so something that's in here is likely from an animal, and so that's where the cholesterol is coming. That's very, very low though for some.
So if you're dealing with something with, let's say you're dealing with cholesterol, so you got high cholesterol. Mm-hmm. When you look at the recipe, you're saying that the 9.8 is low. What would be the high?
Oh gosh, I mean, depending on the portion, because also you want to look at the portion of said food that you're gonna eat, and then also what is in that portion, right? So if it depends on the food. So if this had like 100 for a half a cup, that's a lot, right? Versus 9 for a half a cup, that's not a lot, right? So you just think about it like that. You think about it in terms of like portionality. Because we typically eat large portions in America. This isn't new either. We kind of like think of, you know, the bigger the better. And if we don't give people the portion that they expect, what happens? Yeah, they'll ask, they'll say, where's the rest? They'll say, I paid my money. You know, that's always the next thing. So you get large portions here. So that throws off our perception of what we should be eating.
Now, what is the daily allowance for salt? How many milligrams?
Yeah, so I always tell people if you're not actually adding salt to your food, that's good. But you gotta think about how you're adding salt to it. People think, oh, I'm not using a shaker, so I'm good. But it also matters on, you could be adding salt because you don't choose anything that's low sodium, right? So any type of canned or container, you're not using low sodium, you're using regular. If you are baking with things, using no salt added flavorings, right? Mrs. Dash comes to mind, but there's tons of other things you can choose. Different types of herbs and spices that do not have salt that you can use instead. So that way, you know that you are following pretty much a low sodium diet. Yeah.
So when they say your salt, I don't know what the daily allowance is. That doesn't take into consideration what's already in the food content, right? That you're using the ingredients.
So you're asking the daily allowance for sodium?
Yeah, daily allowance. What is the daily allowance? And then are you supposed to count that with what you're adding, or you discount it?
That's a good question, because it can get confusing. I would say don't overwhelm yourself by having to do math every time you make a meal, okay? Think about it in the fact that, okay, if I'm using low sodium items, I'm using herbs and spices, that will keep me under the allotted amount, right? They say like 1,500, but to be honest, I still think that's kind of high. So that's why I say just use like low sodium items, purchase low sodium items, try to limit like fast food and takeout, because what happens if you purchase like that type of food?
A lot of sodium.
Yeah, but why is there a lot of sodium in it? Because of taste, and they're making it for like, thousands, hundreds of people, right? Also, you're not making it, right? They're making it because they want everybody to like it, but you don't control it, right? So you want to be able to control your food. It's like splattering. Another blooper. Okay,
Shelby, if I may.
go ahead.
Feel free to correct me, but aren't there two different kinds of cholesterol, the good and the bad?
There is.
Because if I'm not mistaken, also your body makes enough cholesterol for your bodily functions. So you already have enough in your body at any given time. Unless obviously there's some kind of medical issue where you're not producing enough. But for the most part, your body is producing all the cholesterol that it needs. So if I'm not mistaken, also cholesterol is usually used to build like cartilage, different bodily tissues, healing itself. So when there's good and there's bad, if you have too much of one or the other, so some people when they see cholesterol, it's like a buzzword where they're like, I gotta cut it all off my diet. Whereas you should always be careful of your intake. Just like salt, your body needs some for proper functions. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your kidneys, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. So I don't believe your body produces sodium, so you do need some in your diet. You sweat it out, you use it a lot for like fluid retention and fluid balances in your body, so it's really important to make sure you get some, but not too much, because it tastes great, but if you have too much, obviously it can be kind of detrimental. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm on, I don't know where this cholesterol is coming from in my body, but doesn't cholesterol clog the arteries? Because I've had to have a stent placed on my heart. I'm on cholesterol reducing medication. So you say our body normally makes the cholesterol. Can we do some more talk on cholesterol?
I think it'd be fine.
Yeah, so when it comes to cholesterol, think about it like this. Our bodies naturally make it. However, it differs depending on your background, right? So if you have more of a Afro-centric, we'll just say it like that, diaspora background, then you're going to have higher cholesterol. It's just genetics, okay? If you have a more European background, it's gonna look a little different, right? So with that, understanding that, okay, it could be genetics that's causing my cholesterol to be slightly higher, okay. Now, do I want to pay attention to every single thing I eat that has cholesterol in it and have to do kind of like the fine tuning? No, but you want to look at the portions of these specific items and know where the cholesterol in your diet is coming from. So if you eat a high animal sourced diet, you likely will add to the potential of you having high cholesterol from genetics and you eating cholesterol, which adds more and then can overwhelm your body, which then leads to hypertension, which then could possibly lead to a stent, right? So it just snowballs. There's different types of cholesterol, right, that he mentioned. So we've got our HDL, our high density lipoprotein cholesterol. It's very long. We call it our good cholesterol. It's the scientific term. So when we do that, we want that to be over 60. It's LDL, which means that's our low density lipoprotein cholesterol. We want that to be lower. We want that to be under 100. So all of those things, so we always say in the field, know your numbers, and that's what we're referring to, right? So know your triglycerides, know your cholesterol. All of those things, know your A1C, right? All of that is important. But I always say, we have cholesterol naturally, just don't go overboard and you'll be okay. And you may have slightly higher, because if you do have an Afrocentric background, then that's just genetics, and we can't control that, and don't worry about stuff you can't control.
So if you have a recipe, you'd probably stay away from the butter then and do something else if you're concerned.
Yeah. Or, butter in small portions, I would say. Because butter is good, right? Anybody from France would tell you they love butter. So they use a lot of butter. However, it is high in saturated fat. It's not considered a heart-healthy fat because it's high in saturated fat. So we have to figure out a way, especially if you do like butter, do a combination of both, right? Maybe if you say, okay, I've got to make this really, really good baked good, right? So if it's like a croissant or something like that, I do not recommend making a croissant from olive oil. You have to use butter for that. So certain things you have to use butter for, right? But if you can do both and do, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, which is going to give us some more of those HDL, the good cholesterol that we need, and less of the LDL and saturated fats and things like that, then go towards that.
So if you stick to more of a plant-based diet, then you're likely safer with your levels, that if it's more meat in your diet.
Yeah, because that's no animal product at all when you're vegan. Now, if you like meat, I like meat. I just don't necessarily eat it all the time, right? Also, I would say if you want to kind of incorporate a vegan lifestyle, don't necessarily like jump off the cliff and do it immediately, right? You can do maybe a Monday, right? Meatless Mondays. Anybody does meatless Mondays? Or fish on Fridays. Make sure it's like baked though, not like fried. Things like that, right? Go ahead.
What's the difference between vegetarian and vegan?
All right, good question. So vegetarian will only stick to our vegetables, so something like this. They could do kind of like eggs and things like that. Then they would add in kind of the ovo part, so it would be like ovo vegetarian if they do eggs, because some vegetarians will say, I do eggs. I haven't met a strict vegetarian before, but most vegetarians, they eat mainly vegetables. But the separation is that vegans use like vegan-esque products. So they don't do any animal whatsoever. So you could possibly see someone's vegetarian walking around with like a full-length coat on. A vegan would not do that. So if they use like vegan skin products, they use vegan leather, everything is no animal whatsoever.
I got one about the salt. I need to go back to the salt. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm glad you're a dietitian. I take it's supposed to be half a teaspoon. It's supposed to be a teaspoon of salt, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to equal your whole amount you're supposed to have all day, right? I take a teaspoon of salt, I level it off, and put it in a little piece of aluminum foil. So when I eat, I sprinkle a little bit on that. I don't put it in the food, but I sprinkle it on what I'm eating on a whole day. And that's how I tame my salt down. Is that okay? Or should I be getting some more, or am I lacking?
We get enough salt. We don't need to worry about that. I would say everyone's got their own strategies, right, on how to limit salt. Maybe that is a strategy that works for you, and I think that's okay. I don't see anything wrong with that. If you wanted to even reduce it down more, you could do that as well. But if you're like, hey, I've got to have this much, I can't go further than that, that's okay too.
Just like my food is more flavored when I put the salt on it, you know, I can still taste it.
Yeah, I would.
Still taste whatever it is, not going overboard.
Yeah, and I would say also try different types of flavor profiles. That helps. So for instance, like trying like cumin and paprika and chili powder, and putting that on like your animal proteins. Maybe trying like cinnamon or something like that on chicken. And different things like that, that helps bring out the flavors. And so you're like, hey, I actually don't need this much sodium than I thought I did. So maybe use it as like a teaching tool too. You said, hey, this is what I eat in a day. Let's see how far I can push this.
See, I thought salt was connected to blood pressure.
It is.
See, that's why.
It is. But, you know, there's other things that cause blood pressure too, right? If you watch the news, that'll increase your blood pressure. And I'm not saying, and I'm saying that based on actual facts. They've done like studies on that, and they've sat people in front of the news and put a cup on them, and their blood pressure rises. It's like a real thing. Yeah. 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 So whoever didn't get it, this is more risotto. If you want more, we've got more. Just to do kind of like final things here, how to add more vegetables to your diet. So this way we're adding tons of vegetables to like a side dish. You can also add vegetables to in the morning, so you can blend them in like a smoothie, right? If you guys like smoothies, you can do that. You mentioned carrot before, spinach, kale, different stuff like that. You can put them in a breakfast hash, right? So if you do eggs in the morning, you can also fold in veggies, right? So what I do is sometimes I'll do spinach, I'll cook that briefly, maybe like some onion, then I'll add an egg to that, right? So that's a way to get it in the morning. You can bake it, so if you have like muffin tins, you can add an egg to it, then add a little veggie to it and bake it, okay? Yep, go ahead.
How many servings of vegetables should we have in a day?
Great question. That could be a takeaway for today. I always tell people you should have 3 to 4 servings of non-starchy vegetables in a day. And then I get lots of people that say, oh, I eat vegetables. I'm like, awesome, great. How often? And they're like, for dinner, right? So that's what we talk about, incorporating it throughout the full day, right?
Would that be, as far as portion size, would you estimate that like a half a cup?
Half a cup, yep. 3 to 4 times a day, yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you eliminate animal products, is that gonna bring your cholesterol at the high part of it down?
It
Completely? I mean, you're saying it could, but is that, because I know our bodies produce, sometimes we can produce over the amount of cholesterol.
That's the genetic part.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking that, if you don't eat any, you say you become, like a vegetarian or whatever, is that gonna bring it down?
It could. I would say could, because causation is really hard to prove, and everybody's different, and we all metabolize things differently. So I would say do that on yourself and do it as a test. Say, hey, for the next, and give yourself some time. So give yourself like 2 months. I'm gonna do a vegetarian and vegan diet for 2 months. I'm gonna check it prior to me starting and after, and seeing what happens. Yep.
So, if I may, if you have any other questions, please put them in the back of your mind, because we have to end our stream. Shelby's going to be here for a few minutes after, so please bring any questions to her. For those who are tuning in, thank you for tuning in. I wish you guys were here, because this looks absolutely incredible. Absolutely wonderful job. For those who are tuning in as well, I'll be at your apartment complexes in the next few hours with your produce boxes. And if that is it, let's give a nice round of applause to Shelby.
Oh, God. I'm clapping for myself.